The devilish radiance roiled like a living sea swallowing heaven and earth alike. Within that boundless black-purple glow, all sound seemed muted, all direction distorted. Hanli stood at its heart, every sense stretched taut, yet the greatest threat remained unseen. In a battlefield where a single breath could mean life or death, the absence of an enemy was far more terrifying than its presence. If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep creating. Hanli kept the sovereign devil corpse and his puppets close at his side. With a flick of his sleeve, he even released over a dozen enormous tortoise puppets, their hulking bodies casting heavy shadows as they accompanied him while he flew straight toward the battlefield. Ancestor Lingu and the white-clothed woman followed closely behind. Upon seeing this, both of them were visibly startled, then quietly relieved. Although a single puppet might not pose much of a threat, when dozens were deployed together and commanded with precision, they could forcibly restrain and distract even an ordinary nascent soul cultivator. Yet while relief bloomed in their hearts, Ancestor Linghu felt a faint sting of envy, whereas the white-clothed woman felt a chill crawl up her spine. To think Hanli still has more trump cards hidden. What an unfathomably deep and mysterious man. In the blink of an eye, Hanli crossed the 5-kilometer distance, separating him from the battlefield. When he was about 300 meters away, he slowed to a halt and carefully surveyed the scene ahead. Only now did he see clearly countless tentacles formed from black-purple devilish radiance writhed wildly through the air, flailing like living entities. At the center of that seething purple glow stood a devil, the very source of the surging devilish chi. The devil's face was twisted with malevolence, a single horn jutting from his forehead. He bore a striking resemblance to the two-headed, four-armed devil Hanli had encountered before. Yet unlike that monstrosity, this devil's body was purely human in shape, his skin smooth and translucent, like exquisitely carved jade. At this moment, the devil's eyes were tightly shut, his expression utterly emotionless, as though he were deep in slumber. What was strange, however, was that thunderous roars occasionally rumbled from his abdomen, despite his mouth remaining firmly closed. From the sound alone, it was clear that boundless rage churned within him, yet his face remained completely still. His arms moved mechanically, hurling balls of pitch-black flame down toward the green cloud below. Each fireball drifted stiffly through the air, as though slowed by some unseen force. Yet despite their sluggish appearance, the moment they ruptured, they unleashed violent waves of black fire spanning over 30 meters, scattering vast swathes of the green cloud in all directions. Still, Wei Wuya's poisonous green cloud was not to be underestimated. It trembled violently before surging forth in retaliation. Countless serpents condensed from toxic green chi shot upward in a relentless barrage. Unfortunately, all of them exploded mid-air, unable to reach the devil concealed within the purple radiance. Thus, green mist, eerie light, and black devilish flames interwove chaotically, detonating again and again in the air like an endless storm. Soon, Ancestor Lingu arrived at Hanli's side. When he saw the devil suspended in the sky, surprise flashed across his face, followed swiftly by delight. "What's going on here?" he exclaimed. "This devil doesn't seem to have fully awakened, or perhaps this body is under some kind of restriction. Either way, this is an excellent opportunity." Hanli slowly shook his head. His gaze never left the battlefield as he replied in a low voice. If it were truly that simple, fellow Taoist Wei would have already slain him instead of hiding painstakingly within the poison cloud. There's something deeper at play here. Moreover, judging from this devil's overwhelmingly powerful chi, he is clearly connected to the one that escaped earlier and is far stronger. A faint crease appeared between his brows. Despite scanning the area repeatedly, he found no trace of the devilified Marquis Nanlong. Just then, his gaze shifted and locked onto Senior Marshal Brother Cheng's group. When they arrived, their reactions were even more pronounced. Upon seeing Hanli, delight flickered across Senior Marshal Brother Cheng's face. Yet for reasons unknown, he merely nodded with a smile instead of greeting him aloud. Han Li could only smile wryly. He sent a voice transmission first, his tone grave. Senior Marshal Brother Chang, you've arrived at an unfortunate moment. This devil is extremely dangerous, even Wei Wuya may not be his match. There is also another devil nearby, one with 2 heads and 4 arms. Senior Marshal Brother Chang was startled. His reply came swiftly through voice transmission. What? That cloud belongs to fellow Taoist Wei Wuya. And there's another monster as well. Since you know so much, could it be you've already fought them? I've already exchanged blows with the other devil, Han Li replied calmly. Although I don't know its true limits, it should be no weaker than a late-stage nascent soul cultivator. If we join forces, we might barely hold our own. That devil can devour nascent souls, excels at concealment techniques, and moves with terrifying speed. Be careful. If it attacks, we must join hands, only then will we have a chance. I understand. I'll inform the 2 fellow Taoists beside me. Senior Marshal Brother Cheng's heart sank. He turned and quietly conveyed Han Li's warning to the 2 cultivators at his side. Taoist Heaven Crystal had already recognized Han Li. When his eyes fell upon the 30 tiger-shaped and tortoise-shaped puppets surrounding him, shock flashed across his face. Moments later, he smiled faintly toward Han Li before engaging Senior Marshal Brother Cheng in discussion. As for the wrinkled old man beside them, when he heard Han Li's name, he glanced over with visible astonishment. Though he was a reclusive, nascent soul eccentric who had remained isolated from the outside world for many years, even he had heard rumors of Han Li's meteoric rise to fame, especially since Han Li was the junior marshal brother of his close friend. Curiosity stirred within him, and he nodded toward Han Li with a composed expression. Ancestor Lingu and the white-clothed woman, while neither particularly famous nor acquainted with the other cultivators, were allied with Han Li. As such, everyone quickly reached a consensus to join hands against these terrifying devils. At that moment, Wei Wuya's hoarse and gloomy voice rang out from within the poison cloud. Fellow Taoist Han, it's fortunate that you arrived in time. This monster is an elder devil that invaded our mortal realm in antiquity. They are the mortal enemies of all human cultivators. I never expected one to be sealed within Devilfall Valley. He paused briefly, his voice heavy. It was accidentally released by fellow Taoists Wang Tiansheng and Wang Tiangu. Both of them perished when the spatial tear collapsed during the unsealing. I survived by sheer luck, but my vitality has been severely damaged. I cannot hold him back much longer. Fortunately, the ancient cultivators placed a powerful seal on his body. He is currently dissolving it with devil fire. Fellow Taoists, you must stop him. Otherwise, once he breaks free, everyone within Devilfall Valley will be slaughtered without resistance. Worry and urgency saturated Wei Wuya's voice. The green cloud churned violently before parting, revealing his figure. His complexion was deathly pale, his eyes dim and unfocused. Han Li cursed inwardly. He had originally intended to merely assist Wei Wuya, but it now seemed they were to become the main force of this confrontation. This is bad. Ancestor Lingu and the others exchanged grim looks. If even Wei Wuya could not suppress the devil, how could they hope to fare better? Yet retreating was not an option. Once Wei Wuya spread word that they had abandoned a righteous battle against an elder devil, their reputations in Heavenly South would be utterly ruined. This was not a conflict between cultivators where retreat was tolerated, but a war against elder devils. As if sensing their hesitation, Wei Wuya softened his tone. Do not worry. I've already extended my spiritual sense outward. As long as you delay him, other fellow Taoists will arrive shortly. I've also sent a voice transmission talisman to the Mulan. Given their ambitions in Heavenly South, they will certainly come. Hearing this, Han Li and the others finally felt some relief. Even if they couldn't defeat the elder devil, buying time should still be possible. Yet at that moment, the devil floating within the black-purple chi seemed to understand their words. His half-closed eyes trembled, and a cold glint flashed within them. His hands ceased their movements as he slowly raised his head, surveying his surroundings. As his gaze swept across the cultivators, black-purple radiance surged violently around him. A bone-chilling pressure descended, sending shivers down everyone's spine. Their hearts lurched as if they had been marked as prey. Han Li, however, cultivated the great development technique. With his vast spiritual sense, he resisted most of the pressure. Though discomfort rippled through him, he still met the Elder Devil's gaze directly with his bright-sight spirit eyes. He knew that if he deliberately avoided eye contact, fear would take root in his heart and cripple him in the coming battle. When the Elder Devil noticed Han Li's defiant stare, surprise flickered across his face. His icy gaze examined Han Li closely, yet Han Li continued to stare back in silence. Ancestor Lingu and the white-clothed woman, who had been standing beside Han Li, unconsciously retreated several steps under the weight of that gaze, as though suppressed by the devil's spiritual pressure. Seeing this, the others' expressions changed, and they raised their guards at once. Then the devil lifted one arm. Black flames flickered violently. In an instant, a black fireball swelled to the size of a human head, then vanished without a trace with a casual wave of his arm. Han Li's heart jolted. A moment later, shock surged through him. The fireball hadn't been aimed at any of them. Instead, it struck an empty patch of sky. With a violent rupture, black flames engulfed everything within a 30-meter radius. From within those flames, a silhouette emerged, a two-headed, four-armed monster. Its arms glowed with purple light as it waved them forcibly, gathering the scattered black devil flames back together, condensing them once more into a single fireball. The two-headed elder devil swallowed the fireball whole, then slowly raised his head to look toward the devil above. "So it was you," the horned elder devil sighed softly. "You finally found me." The two-headed elder devil's lips curled into a sinister smile as he spoke in a hostile tone. "You're quite bold, daring to attack me. It seems you wish to become the master soul. I wonder, was it a mistake to send you after those cultivators in the past? Since you're me and I'm you, why should I still obey your orders now that I've gained my own consciousness?" The single-headed elder devil spoke calmly, his voice devoid of agitation. In the sacred realm, it was never rare for a soul fragment to devour the original. "You should have realized this the moment you released me on my own." The two-headed devil's expression instantly turned ferocious. "That's right, I had anticipated this. But I never imagined you'd be able to lure human cultivators to my sealed body and use dissolution transformation to forge yourself a new one. Did you not know that while this method can dispel the curse, it would gravely damage my body's vitality and cause my cultivation to drop by a full third? Do you understand what that means?" The human-shaped elder devil let out a cold scoff, his tone dripping with disdain. "Your body? What nonsense are you spouting? I was originally a fragment of your soul. Why shouldn't I use it as I please? As for losing a third of its cultivation, so long as I devour you, I can remain in the mortal realm, evade those willfully ignorant cowards, and roam free and unrestrained. When the time is ripe, I will open an ancient passage to the sacred realm. With such a great achievement, I may even ascend to the ranks of the sacred ancestors. What significance would a mere loss of cultivation have then?" Hearing this, the two-headed devil knew there was no turning back. He said nothing more, since the second devil soul he had nurtured was now betraying him. There could only be one outcome. There could be only one main soul in this world. Naturally, the two-headed devil had no choice but to fight. The main soul was unable to escape the restrictions of this region, and he absolutely could not allow his soul fragment to flee either. Though he now appeared to be at a disadvantage, his soul remnant had made a grave miscalculation. While the fragment had seized the devil body, neither its cultivation nor its devil form could rival his own. More importantly, as the main soul, he had placed a restriction upon that fragment long ago, though he did not know how much of it had already been dissolved. The outcome of their coming battle would hinge upon it. With that thought, the elder devil suddenly turned one of his heads and looked toward the gathered cultivators. He spoke coldly. "Let us first devour these cultivators' nascent souls and settle our affairs later. Then we can fight without interruption over who shall become the subordinate. I refuse to give these humans any chance to exploit the chaos. Surely you agree? Of course, the soul remnant replied evenly. I've already dissolved most of the restrictions on my body. Even if you didn't attack, I could slaughter them all myself. As he spoke, his eyes opened fully, revealing blinding red-purple light. The elder devil gave a low, cold chuckle and instinctively turned his gaze toward Han Li. Don't overestimate yourself. Among them are several cultivators who will prove especially troublesome. In response, the elder devil spat out a long purple tongue as though voicing silent disagreement. When the cultivators witnessed the two-headed elder devil reveal himself, they were momentarily stunned. Their shock deepened as they comprehended the meaning of the devil's exchange. It turned out the two had originally been master and soul fragment. Now, however, the fragment had seized the original body and become the main soul. The two were locked in irreconcilable opposition. Ancestor Linghu and senior martial brother Chung were secretly delighted at first. If the two devils fought among themselves, the cultivators might exploit the opportunity. But their expressions soon changed when the devils decided to unite against them instead. Han Li's mind spun rapidly. He immediately turned toward Wei Wuya and said, "Fellow Taoist Wei, I'll have to trouble you with delaying the main devil. These two will assist you. I and the others will deal with the two-headed devil. This is the only way we can survive." As he spoke, Han Li nodded toward Ancestor Linghu and the white-clothed woman, signaling them to assist Wei Wuya. Wei Wuya forced a bitter smile as he understood Han Li's intent. I'll do my best, but he has already dissolved most of the restrictions on his body. I don't know how much longer I can hold out. Still, the longer he endured, the more cultivators would arrive. Ancestor Linghu and the white-clothed woman voiced no objections to Han Li's command. In the cultivation world, strength alone determined seniority. The moment Han Li finished speaking, the two devils acted without giving the cultivators any chance to deliberate further. The main elder devil spun in place as devilish light erupted from his body, abruptly dimming the heavens. Black-purple radiance surged outward in vast waves, rapidly staining the sky. The main devil remained stationary as the light spread, forming a colossal curtain that expanded in all directions. Meanwhile, the two-headed devil wore an inscrutable expression. His body blurred, then vanished from sight. The cultivators knew at once that the battle had begun. No matter what plans they once had, they could only steel themselves and move forward. Wei Wuya's body flared with green light as the poison cloud around him churned violently. Over 10 flood dragons condensed from the toxic mist, baring their fangs and claws as they charged forward, only occasionally slowed by the overwhelming pressure of the devilish radiance. Ancestor Linghu and the white-clothed woman exchanged a glance and flew directly to Wei Wuya's side. The woman produced a stasis light mirror, releasing a dense beam of multicolored radiance that crashed against the devilish light screen, slowing its advance. Ancestor Linghu, lacking time to enlarge his ancient ring treasure, instead summoned his jade scepter and a small jade seal. Both streaked forward in flashes of green light, striking the light screen with tremendous force. From their perspective, though, Wei Wuya was heavily injured. He remained one of the most formidable cultivators in Heavenly South, a figure whose name had thundered across the cultivation world for centuries. Compared to Han Li, Wei Wuya was the more reliable choice to assist. At the very least, they wouldn't have to face the two-headed devil's bizarre concealment techniques, which neither of them could counter. Within the protection of the poison mist, confronting the other devil was comparatively safer. In the blink of an eye, the two entered the green cloud as Wei Wuya opened a passage for them. Han Li paid them no further attention. Instead, he glanced towards senior martial brother Cheng's group and was momentarily stunned. They had failed to evade the encroaching devilish radiance in time. The black-purple light engulfed them completely. Yet as seasoned nascent soul cultivators, they reacted swiftly. The 3 cultivators and 2 puppets gathered together, forming a 5-point defensive formation. Each released protective treasures, transforming into flickering orbs of light that layered into a dense, multi-tiered barrier. The two sinister puppets opened their mouths, exhaling dense grey yin qi that further concealed the group. At the same moment, Han Li received a hurried voice transmission from Senior Marshal Brother Cheng. Junior Marshal Brother Han, this devil seems far too formidable. Wouldn't it be safer to… Before the message could finish, Han Li already understood. He smiled bitterly. It seemed these three had their own means of protection. He wouldn't need to worry too much about them. Although this method was safer, it required perfect coordination among those involved, as they restrained one another's movements. For cultivators unaccustomed to fighting together, it was often better to act alone. With that thought, the curtain of devilish light reached Han Li. He frowned as azure light flashed around him, forming a protective layer. Raising both hands, he pointed toward the light screen. More than 10 3-meter-long streaks of azure sword chi shot forth, weaving and crossing as they tore the black-purple barrier apart with ease. Seeing this, Han Li immediately scanned his surroundings and sighed helplessly. Though the light screen above him had shattered, black-purple radiance enveloped him from every other direction. By now, the Elder Devil's light screen had expanded to a radius of over 5 kilometers, radiating astonishing pressure. Han Li felt his movements slow as the devilish light flickered and began repairing itself. Releasing the blue light shield, Han Li added yet another protective barrier, then remained still as he was submerged in the radiance. His gaze swept around him, brows furrowing. He sensed something was amiss. There was no way the Elder Devil would expend such effort for nothing. Sure enough, his expression darkened. Though nothing appeared wrong with his body, he discovered that the purple-black light was draining his magic power through his protective barriers. The amount was minute, but over time it would steadily erode his strength. Alarmed, Han Li clenched his fists. After a brief moment of contemplation, he suddenly unleashed dense bolts of lightning from his hands. Lightning flashed and surged into the barriers before erupting outward. Thunder roared. Countless fine arcs of golden lightning crawled across the azure and blue barriers surrounding him. The devilish light recoiled as though frightened, retreating slightly. Han Li finally let out a breath of relief, his thoughts racing. The sovereign devil corpse and his puppets advanced, escorting him at the center. The massive tortoise puppets began condensing icy chi, forming enormous translucent ice spikes along their backs. All of this happened within the blink of an eye. Blue light flared within Han Li's eyes as he fully activated his bright sight spirit eyes. As he scanned his surroundings, his heart suddenly thumped violently. What's going on? Han Li was unable to find even the slightest trace of the two-headed devil. His heart sank. He let out a deep breath and forcibly suppressed the unease surging within him. Azure light erupted wildly from his body as he poured every last drop of spiritual power into his bright sight spirit eyes. In the next instant, a cold blue radiance burst forth from his eyes. Han Li swept his gaze across the surroundings and finally discovered something. His expression changed sharply. Almost simultaneously, the dozen massive tortoise puppets surrounding him flared with spiritual light. In a thunderous barrage, over 1,000 ice spikes shot outward, blanketing a small area ahead in a storm of frost. Black chi abruptly surged forth from the targeted region, revealing the two-headed devil. A flash of astonishment crossed his face. In 3 of his arms, he held a spell flag, a ring, and a small sword. As the icicles descended, he waved those 3 arms in rapid succession. The spell flag released a sweeping wave of black light that washed over him. The small sword flickered repeatedly, unleashing razor-sharp streaks of black sword chi. Meanwhile, the newly acquired ring blurred, firing countless identical projections of itself forward with astonishing force. Before a single icicle could land, they were completely shattered by the might of those treasures. Frigid chi flooded the surrounding 30 meters, and the temperature plummeted sharply. The two-headed devil paid no heed to the sudden cold. Instead, he let out a sinister smile, then vanished once more in a flash of devilish light. Han Li's expression darkened. He slowly licked his lips. This elder devil was perhaps the most terrifying enemy he had encountered on his path of cultivation. One moment of carelessness would mean certain death. Even with his bright sight spirit eyes pushed to their absolute limit, the devil's form within the devilish radiance remained unbearably vague. His movements were so swift that Han Li could not keep him within his sight for long. All he could catch were fleeting blurred after-images slipping in and out of view. Only when the elder devil slowed or halted momentarily could Han Li barely discern his outline. As a result, Han Li immediately found himself at a severe disadvantage. Maintaining the bright sight spirit eyes at full power placed an immense burden upon him. His eyes burned painfully, and he knew he could not sustain this state for long. Once the ability weakened, the devil would vanish entirely from his perception. A wave of gloom washed over Han Li. There was only one solution now: either shatter the devil's concealment outright or force him to abandon it. Otherwise, continuing to hide within the devilish radiance rendered him completely untouchable. With that thought, Han Li's expression shifted. He slapped his storage pouch. A vast cloud of gold-devouring beetles burst forth, swarming around him. With a sharp whistle, Han Li ordered them to disperse. In the blink of an eye, the beetles spread out, forming a perimeter over 100 meters wide with Han Li at its center. Even if he could no longer perceive the devil with his bright sight spirit eyes, the moment the devil entered the beetle's domain, Han Li would sense it immediately. At the very least, he would be safe from ambush. The instant the insect cloud settled, a cold snort echoed nearby. In a flash of black light, the two-headed devil reappeared. His gaze fell upon the shimmering gold-devouring beetles, and his expression grew unsightly. Then his human head furrowed its brows tightly as the two heads shifted positions. Now the malevolent ghost head faced Han Li directly, an icy smile curling its lips. Han Li's heart trembled. His vigilance spiked instantly. The ghost head opened its mouth and spat out silent waves of black energy. When those waves reached the beetles, they rippled through the swarm. The gold-devouring beetles swayed violently, then dropped lifelessly to the ground. In an instant, most of the beetles blocking the devil's path collapsed, opening a clear passage straight toward Han Li. The ghost head grinned savagely and shot forward in a blur. Han Li's expression turned grim. He raised his hand and flicked his finger, launching a walnut-sized sphere of golden light. The projectile moved with terrifying speed, appearing before the ghost head in an instant. This was a lightning technique Han Li had comprehended within the illusory realm induced by the nature origin pill. By compressing divine devilbane lightning into a compact sphere, he sacrificed a portion of its power for an overwhelming increase in speed, perfect for a surprise attack. The devil was caught completely off guard. Shock flashed through him. The lightning sphere was too fast. He had no time to employ movement techniques or defensive arts. Left with no choice, he opened his mouth and spat out a purple shadow, resembling a serpent, to intercept it. Boom! Golden light exploded violently. The purple shadow was blasted backward, and the air filled with the acrid scent of burning flesh. The ghost head let out a muffled groan, then stared at Han Li with venomous hostility. The purple shadow, his long, razor-sharp tongue, had directly collided with divine devilbane lightning and suffered severe damage. Han Li showed no surprise at the failure of his ambush. Instead, he coldly smiled and whistled once more. The fallen gold-devouring beetles immediately stirred, rising from the ground and returning to their original positions around him. A trace of astonishment flashed across the devil's face. His gaze turned grave as it lingered on the beetles. At that moment, Senior Marshal Brother Cheng's group seized the opportunity. They unleashed their treasures simultaneously: a white flying sword, a blue jade ruler, and 3 white weaver shuttles charging toward the Elder Devil with overwhelming momentum. The Elder Devil merely cast a cold glance at the incoming attack. He waved his 3 magic treasures, engulfing the cultivators' weapons in black radiance and halting their advance. The rear head was the one controlling those devilish treasures. Through some unknown technique, the devilish artifacts suddenly flared with light several times brighter. Their radiance formed a barrier that completely trapped the cultivators' treasures within, absorbing their magic power and preventing escape. Clearly, the devil intended to deal with Han Li, the greatest threat, first. Hanli frowned. At that moment, the devil's rear head spoke coldly. Those insects are actually resistant to my devilish vibration art. According to my knowledge, only a handful of spirit insects in this world possess such resilience. Judging from their golden shells, they are most likely gold-devouring beetles. He paused briefly, then sneered. Fortunately, they have not yet reached their legendary mature stage. Otherwise, I would have been utterly helpless against them. It is a pity I am not using my true body otherwise. I could let you witness the ferocity of the Holy Realm's devil butterflies. These immature spirit insects would be their perfect nourishment. After speaking, the rear head cast a strange glance toward the main elder devil, who was slowly being suppressed by Wei Wuya. Han Li slightly raised the corner of his lips, his expression otherwise unchanged. With a flick of his sleeve, several dozen golden flying swords shot forth, spiraling around him in wide arcs. He rapidly formed spell seals, launching them toward the swords. They shimmered with golden light. Han Li intended to deploy the Oriate sword formation. The ghost head's eyes suddenly gleamed with ominous light. Since you insist on courting death, I won't waste time with you. I'll devour your nascent soul and end this battle quickly. This body won't last much longer, so let me show you the true ferocity of the Holy Realm's devilish arts. Obediently perish, sensing an unknown threat from the flying swords. The devil refused to allow Han Li the chance to complete the formation. He burst into howling laughter. His body blurred, and he charged forward with a bare fist toward the gold-devouring beetles. Han Li's heart sank. Unable to continue forming the sword array, he issued a mental command. Though fearful of the devil, the beetles were stirred by Han Li's will. With furious buzzing, they surged forward to meet the charge. The tiger demon puppets escorting Han Li also lunged ahead in streaks of white light. The sovereign devil corpse strode forward in massive steps, placing itself directly before Han Li. Behind him, the tortoise puppets opened their mouths, unleashing thick beams of blue light. In the blink of an eye, the two-headed devil was engulfed by a storm of attacks. Han Li never expected these measures to truly stop him. All he needed was time just enough to complete the sword formation. Yet he had gravely underestimated the true might of the two-headed elder devil. The ghost head opened its mouth, emitting a clattering metallic sound. His arms blurred as all 10 fingers twisted into bizarre incantation gestures in rapid succession. Suddenly, a blinding black radiance erupted from his body, so intense it could not be looked at directly. Wave after wave of black chi exploded outward, violently repelling the gold-devouring beetles and tiger demon puppets while completely nullifying the dozen blue light beams. At the same time, the second head let out 3 ear-piercing shrieks. The surrounding chi convulsed violently, and the very world seemed to tremble. Moments later, the black radiance dimmed. A gleaming black shell, covered in long, vicious spikes, had formed over the devil's body, like a malevolent god of war. The pressure it emitted felt utterly alien, as though it did not belong to this world. Then the ghost head lowered its gaze and stared at Han Li with savage intent. Han Li stood frozen, completely dumbstruck. That's all for today's content. See you in the next part. Support me by becoming a member. It will give me more motivation. Thank you so much.